Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of the ARC Service Park. I'm Adrian Coppin and today we're joined by somebody who's waving the Aussie flag as the WRC returns this weekend in Estonia. It's our very own Dale Moscatt. Hey Dale.
Hey Adrian, how are you?
Good, thanks. You're obviously in Estonia and I imagine it's been quite a mission to get there. Tell us a bit about what's been involved.
Yeah, it's been an epic mission, I should say. Look, WRCs are always very involved. The information starts to come quite early. But for this one, multiplying that by the COVID thing has been extreme. Even getting permission to get out of Australia was a massive task. So I'm over here in the interest of the nation, basically was the way we could get an exemption. So if you're an Australian athlete competing for Australia, there's an exemption to travel for your career. Fortunate enough to be a professional doing this and able to get one of those exemptions. So I must thank Motorsport Australia for their assistance with that too. Eugene was fantastic in helping out. So, it's been an epic thing. And then even the travel in itself, like you can see, I've got a mask here. We have to have one of them in the service park at all time. I'm sitting in our truck at the moment. But from when I left home in Sydney Airport, 40 hours worth of travelling because flights being moved and I had to go the long way around. Mask on the whole 40 hours to get here. I'm up to 5 COVID tests so far. It's been an epic trip.
It's obviously been a long time since we've seen WRC action. I bet, like myself, many are looking forward to sitting down in front of all live this weekend. You're with Carl Krudner in a R5 Polo. Completely new rally for the WRC. You've done some testing. How's everything been going so far?
Yeah, good. It's an interesting stuff. And even before that, when I was with Toshi in the European Championship, Carl was just starting out as a junior in little front wheel drives and so forth. So got to know him. We'd always got on well, and I competed a lot in China over the years, probably almost my second home, I guess. And I needed a driver to come to China with me and compete in some rallies when Chris Atkinson had some clashes with dates. So, they want a top level driver, and Carl's certainly that. He's the only person non-Finn to win the Finnish Championship. So he's won WRC2 events in Sweden, Finland, stuff like that. So top rate driver. And he was just at the point in his career when he was stopping because of some business reasons. So I got him to come to China with me and he did a phenomenal job. When this opportunity came up here to do his home event in Estonia, it was a no-brainer. They were going to try and do everything to get here. When a top-rate driver like that rings you and says you've got a Polo R5 car to come and do this fantastic roller coaster rally, you're never going to say no to that.
We hear a lot that the roads are similar to Finland. I guess you've done a bit of testing, I believe, on Friday and on Monday. What are the roads like compared to Finland?
So the road we had on Friday, the idea of Friday, we're supporting a children's charity over here. There's a Kids for Cancer charity, and Carl's done a lot for that to raise money. They raised just over €500,000 for kids with cancer. So Friday was about a bit of a systems check for the car, but also taking some of these kids to ride in the car. It was very slippery. It rained quite a lot, so it wasn't very indicative of the rally, whereas the Monday test that we just did was phenomenal. Amazing road. I think when you say Finland, you're right. It's very similar to Finland. The road can be quite hard on the big main Shire roads here with that fine layer of sandy type gravel on the top. But the grip is still amazing. The grip's really good. You can really lean on the car and you get a lot of yaw through the corners with the amount of grip that there is. So there's always a great feeling in the car on those sorts of roads. It can cut up quite a lot. There is some softer sections. Certainly when you turn from one section of a stage, you can cut through some small lanes to another one. Those sections there can be quite narrow and quite soft, and they rut up quite a lot. So it sounds bad to say that our test was great because it got really rough, but that's what happened on the Monday test. As I said, there's been a fair bit of rain here. Even though it's their summer, it's only 19 degrees in the day. And there's been a fair bit of rain, so it doesn't dry out very quickly. It's also quite a swampy country. So the weather changes here, and whenever you see clouds, it normally has water in it from those swamps. So it can be quite tricky. We're not sure what to expect for the rally yet because that forecast can be quite unpredictable. But yeah, like Finland, The difference, I guess, is the crests here are quite rolling. In Finland, they're a lot sharper crests and a lot more jumps in that style of thing. The organisers do actually do some work and actually add jumps and put a bit of a pitch on some of those crests to make it a little bit more exciting, which you probably don't have to do. It's exciting enough to me, but yeah, it's a fantastic, really fast roller coaster. The test road that we had, I think we averaged 127 k's an hour, and there's a couple of second gear corners and stuff in it, so you can imagine there's a fairly fast flow to the majority of the stages. So definitely looking forward to it.
And there's obviously some stiff competition in what will be Rally 3 or Rally 2 even. We see Pierre Lebert, Pontus Tiedemann. Where do you guys think you're going to shape up? Is it an all-out assault or top 5?
A few years ago when Carl was competing full-time with this stuff, he was winning these events, even with the factory Skodas, and Lappy and Tiedemann were the guns then. Carl would normally be leading an event or certainly winning stages along the way in his private car. So he is a top-rate driver, no question with that. The last event he did was with me in China probably 20 months ago. So it's a long time out of the car, certainly at this level. It's probably helped a little bit with the situation with COVID that no one else has spent so much time in the car. Like we had dinner with Julian last night. It's 5 months since he and Seb were in the car. So everyone's going to be a little bit rusty. So that probably bring the feel back to us a little bit. So getting that feeling in the car is going to be the key. He certainly knows he can still do it. I've got no question that his pace is there. Even from the first pass in the car, you sense the fact that he's an absolute natural, obviously. But just remembering grip levels and trusting the car in the fast places, because that's where you get hammered on time if you're not really, really on it. So we've got to get a feeling back as soon as we can. When that happens, I think we'll do quite well. Obviously, there's got all of the Solberg come off the back of 3 rallies already since COVID. Bad Osberg's just come to an event south of here in Estonia a week or so back. You're talking about top-rate drivers in, factory-ish level cars. So it's certainly going to be a very tough ask to win that category. But we're hoping that we'll be on that pace. It's certainly worrying some of those guys. So, yeah, really, really looking forward to the battle ahead.
You mentioned there you obviously are one of the few that get to do what you love for a job. You're a professional co-driver. I guess it all obviously started for you somewhere. Where was that and what rally was that?
Groomy's my best mate, has been since we were little kids at school. And we started, when we left school, we were circuit racing. We both bought cars that we could use at the race circuit, and we were doing that sort of thing. But going round and round in circles, to me, was a little bit boring. So we went and watched a rally. Just a friend of a friend was into rallying, so we went and watched a rally and went, oh wow, what an adventure! 2,000 corners instead of 12. Like it's just so much more of an adventure. And that's the type of person I am. I like the bigger, longer, harder battles. Just fell in love with rallying. I don't really know how I got addicted, because I only made it about 2 k's into the first rally. We got bogged and stuck off the side of the road. So, somehow the torch was already lit from there, and that's how it all started.
Like many, you obviously started off at club-based events and grassroots, and you worked your way up through the ranks with a few privateers in the ARC. But it was 2005, you partnered up with Cody Crocker and went on to win your first ARC title. That obviously must have been a long time coming for you.
Yeah, I started early to mid-90s, as you say, doing club events and all that sort of stuff, learning the ropes. And I sat with a whole heap of different people through the car club and all that sort of thing. And I started going to events with Brett Middleton as part of his team. I would work as a mechanic on the team, and I would get to see the recce's and all that sort of stuff, and sort of built a bit of a foundation and a lot of knowledge on the ARC. My first ARC was 97 Coffs Harbour Rally. Just kept getting bigger, better, faster rides as we went through with different people. And then I won the Privateers Cup with Brad Goldsborough in 2004. So sort of what's the next step from there was the question. And fortunately for me, the timing of it all was Greg Folletta was stepping out of the car into a management role within Subaru. So the seat had been vacant next to Cody. And as with anything, which you sort of work out more and more as you're involved in motorsport, it's all networking. Back then, we didn't have onboard cameras and things the way that we do now. So for people to understand what I was like and how I went about my business is a harder job. So the networking side of it then was a big thing. But yeah, Cody and I went up and did an event in China as a bit of a test and got on really well straight away, and everything gelled. And when it comes to the ARC, history will show that was a fantastic year. We won the event in China. We won Canberra, was an Asia Pacific around back then, and for manufacturers only in Australia. Then it became the Drivers' Championship started for us in the Forest Rally, and yeah, I think there was only one rally we didn't win all year, so it was a fantastic year. We also went to New Zealand and Japan, and that sort of lit the fire for me with wanting to go over and do things outside of Australia as well. I've done a lot of ARCs and I loved it, and you'll see to date I still compete in every ARC that I'm home for because I love the series and I like all the people involved with it. But yeah, that was probably the place where I think you could say I made my name and got noticed by people even outside of Australia, because if you did well in the Australian Championship, you could certainly put your hand up and say you were ready to do bigger and better things as well. So a lot of credit goes to the ARC.
And you mentioned that, so obviously it was a springboard for your career onwards. We take a look at 2008 and 2009. You joined Yevgeny with, a PWRC program, and then onto the Junior Citro team in 2009, where we all probably know you for that jump in Finland. I guess, do you still have nightmares about that jump?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? So the end of that 2005 year with Subaru, that was their 10th title in a row. So they called it a decade of dominance, and that was sort of the end of the chapter for them. They didn't think they could achieve too much more there. So that left me up in the air. So I went and competed in China for a year. I did the Middle East Championship, did a few things like that. And I was actually in the Middle East doing a rally in Lebanon, and I got approached by someone who was helping Evgeny with his PWRC campaign. At the time, he was 17, actually. Yeah, he was 17. So I went, funnily enough, to Estonia here, just down the road, did the first test with him. They were trialling a few different co-drivers, and my name got put into the ring, and I went and contacted them, went to Turkey and saw them at an event and said, look, I'm going to come to this test that you're doing and show you what I can do. And yeah, we sort of went from there. The test went really well. Jumped on a train straight after the test and went to a rally, which was an IRC European event back then in Russia. Yeah, and then the ball started rolling from there. We did PWRC for the rest of that year. Got some very good results. I knew some people within the service park, and we had some chats with Malcolm Wilson and Citroen, and basically started to form a bit of a partnership with them. Evgeny tested with both, liked the Citroen car a lot. So yeah, I think from memory it was Christmas Eve or 23rd, 24th of December when I got the email from the team saying, give us a call. The contract that we had for you for next year's going to step up. We're getting in a world car. And yeah, it was a pretty cool Christmas present, to be honest. So yeah, we started that year, I think, with a nine round calendar, starting in Norway. And Evgeny was a phenomenal talent, absolutely phenomenal talent as far as just getting a feel for the car straight away. Like, he was immediately quick on the test he did in Sweet Lamb, and he'd never driven a world car before. We were setting really, really quick, top 2-3 split times in Norway. The first rally we did, we won, and actually still the youngest ever stage winner. And I guess you'd say Evgeny, it's not me, but he's still the youngest ever stage winner of a WRC. So in Acropolis Rally in Greece, we won shakedown and then 4 stages during the rally. and we were actually fighting for a podium in that event and broke a drive shaft on the last morning. So, yeah, they were fantastic times. Finished fifth in Sardinia. I think that's still my highest overall WRC result. But yeah, I think most people would remember me and did training in Finland where he tried to flip the thing over backwards.
Do you still remember it like it was yesterday? Obviously, it was. We've all seen the footage in many angles and photos. Was it as scary as it looked?
Yeah, it's still around. The Finland rally time of year, every year I get, I don't know, countless messages and Facebook posts and all this, that the images and video of it still go around the world. And in fact, one of the Spanish sports channels still has it as one of the intros. It is a magnificent bit of footage from the outside. From the inside, it was a little bit strange. I did a lot of snowboarding and stuff when I was younger, and I used to do backflips on trampoline in training and all things like that. And that's what it felt like to me. It felt like the Mark Webber slow motion backflip in Le Mans, you know. So if you look at the onboard footage and look at me, when it gets to the certain point where it took off, so the data shows, I think we're doing 162, 164, something like that. And everybody else went back from fifth to fourth gear just before that jump because the road drops away quite a lot after it. And Evgeny didn't. Evgeny pulled another gear. So it was never going to end well. But yeah, as it sort of started to take off there on those cars and the flat floors that they have meant the wind got underneath it and it just kept going up. So at probably halfway through when it really started to take off, you'll see me, my eyes look backwards and look up because I was trying to spot landing like you would when you're snowboarding and wakeboarding and stuff like that, you know. And again, he just closed his eyes. So when he says he wasn't scared, I can tell you he's absolutely lying. But I thought we were going to do a complete flip. I didn't think we were going into the trees or anything like that. To me, 100%, we were just doing one of the complete flips. So, yeah, I wasn't actually frightened, but it was certainly an uneasy feeling.
I'm glad it was you, not me. So obviously you finished your time with Niveni and you did a few other things around in the APRC, and you've ultimately ended up back in Australia predominantly for the last few years. We've seen you regularly competing in the Australian Rally Championship. You've obviously been with a lot of drivers, I guess probably more than you name to account. Jack Monkhouse, Richie Dalton, Molly Taylor, just to name a few. But I guess there was obviously a period there where you partnered up for a couple of years with not one but two petters, being Mark and Scott, for an assault on the ARC with Mark and then the WRC with Scott. That was obviously would have been a very surreal experience and a busy year, no doubt.
Yeah, look, I knew the Petters boys for a long time, and even Will, I'd been testing with him when we've been doing ARCs, 10 plus years before. So always got on well with the guys. I travelled around New Zealand spectating with them. We were good friends, but we'd always been rivals. Scott was the only event we didn't win in 2005 when I was with Cody was Rally South Australia, and it was Scott that actually beat us. So yeah, we'd been rivals but friends for a lot of years. So Scott had a big accident and had some time off. Still found there was a bit of fire burning and unfinished business because he tried for quite a lot of years to win the Australian Championship. So yeah, he gave me a call and said, look, would you be interested if I came back in sitting alongside me? So the championship had already switched to two-wheel drive. Eli already had a car running and there was already championships being run and won with that. So we wanted a good car. I had some contacts at Renault because the boss there was a former boss of mine with BMW. So yeah, I got Scotty and Justin to sit down and have a bit of a chat about it, and we managed to put a factory team together. It was really quite exciting. Scott is a phenomenal talent. From the first time we tested the car, he'd never driven a front-wheel drive in an event before, and yeah, it's quite strange. It's as sideways as I've ever been in any rally car of any type, and it's front-wheel drive. So anyone that says front-wheel drive's boring hasn't been in a good one with a good driver, because that car was very, very special. By the end of the second year, we converted it to the Australian G2 regulation. So it had a little bit more power and a little bit more travel, and it was a really, really nice car. And still, like Scott still will never sell that car. You'll see him pop up every now and again doing a rally in it because it is just so much fun. And as I said, he's still a good mate of mine. It's certainly been one of the highlights of my career, sitting those Petters boys. When Scott and I then moved to WRC2, it was called back then. We did 2 seasons, one at Fiesta, one at Skoda. And with us over there competing overseas, I'd come back and sit with Mark in national events in the Peugeot as well. So yeah, that was a couple of really, well, in the end it ended up being 4 years, that partnership with Petters there. And yeah, it was certainly very fondly remembered. A great family team, huge supporters of the ARC for many, many years. You'll see all the greats of Ed Ordinski's and so forth having Petters on the car, and they sponsor events, help teams out. Yeah, really a good part of Australian rallying history, that family.
We haven't seen the WRC, like you said, for 5 months. What's the general feel and buzz about the service park? Is it a different environment with COVID or business as usual?
Yeah, it's funny you say buzz about the service park. The COVID situation's been strange. As I said, I've had 5 tests already. I have a QR code on my phone that you have to use to scan in. You don't get out of the car at the start of the service park. You have to scan this code to get in. Masks on the whole time when you get into the service park. Other than in and around your car, you have to have your mask on. You're not supposed to go into other teams' areas. You know, rallying is a really big family, and normally that, you know, I don't mind a chat, so I would normally be down in other people's service parks and vice versa, catching up with everyone. And you know, I've got so many friends in the service park, and I've not seen many of them at all. Like, as I said, we had dinner with Julian last night because I haven't seen him for probably a year, or be more than that because we missed Coffs last year as well. So yeah, I haven't seen a lot of the drivers. Our recce starts this afternoon, so obviously we'll start catching up with a few more people along the way. But it's a very, very strange, surreal feeling in the service park at the moment. As far as the guys go, again, Julian said 5 months out of the car, you're obviously a little bit rusty. I think what you can expect from the world guys is those cars are phenomenal because of power and this and that and the other, but the amazing thing with them is the aero. And the only way those cars work properly is if you really trust in that aero. And it's hard to get to that last little bit with those cars. So they've all done as much testing as they can, but it's nowhere near even what they should have done, let alone all the rallies they've missed. So, you know, my feeling is if they're all absolutely on it from the word go, which they have to be in a shortened championship like this, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if they can all stay on the road. And hopefully they do. I want to see the battle all the way, but I would predict a fair bit of, a fair few mistakes, just little things that end up turning pear-shaped in such a fast rally. Because, yeah, getting that, you know, we keep talking about that feeling, and that's what it is. Sometimes you can't rush that. That feeling's sort of got to come to you, and how long it takes for that to happen, and whether you're prepared to try and push and get to that straight away or it happen naturally is probably going to be the big determining factor. And I mean, I don't know how anyone's going to beat Oid here. I'd be very, very surprised if anyone does. Just, I said, it's a little bit unique with the surface and character of the roads, and obviously no one's done more rallying in Estonia than Oid. So it will be interesting to see how much risk the other guys are prepared to take to try and keep up to the end.
Absolutely. I know we'll all be looking and eager to see who takes the win. Look, Dar, thank you very much for taking some time out of what is probably a busy schedule and just ahead of recce. I guess on behalf of everybody here in Australia, wish you luck flying the flag, and I look forward to seeing you in a forest here in Australia sometime soon.
Right, mate. Thanks very much. Appreciate it. Cheers.
And that was Dale Moscatt from WRC Estonia. Make sure you follow all the action here in Australia on rally.com.au and tune in this weekend to WRC All Live to follow Dale and the rest of the WRC action.